Wow, it's chapter 2 and we already have some major warnings. Warnings. R word, rape, and violence. By the way, it isn't like really bad, it's just basically suggested. But anyways, you had become bored very quickly. And Myra had begun to read a book for how long it had been before this whole thing. Until a knock came at your door. Sorry for the wait, but there are things we need to finish quickly. Mitsuki, your mother, walked in. You quickly noticed a book in her hand. You quickly stood and watched as she sat down in a chair, and your mother. Myra had been standing the moment the door had opened. You took the seat she was in earlier. Mitsuki then handed you the book, and you looked over it for some time. Since this is a bigger kingdom and the fact that you will be the crown princess, you will have to have more ladies in waiting. Your eyes narrowed. It was understandable since the number of ladies that followed a high-ranking woman was a show of her power, and you were soon to be the crown princess, like said. You nodded. I must apologize if none of the ladies in waiting you have picked for me are to my liking. You lowered your head. Do not worry, your mother has already told me about it. She smiled, and you looked to your mother, who was sitting next to her. She wore pretty much a scowl of warning you not to be rude to the other queen. You sighed, smiling as you then took the book from Mitsuki's hands. You took a moment to look at the cover and then opening it, slowly looking over each and individual page. You could feel the gaze of both the optimistic Mitsuki and the gaze of harshness from your mother. But truly, none of them caught your eye. They were nobles and would definitely scare off Myra. But you had picked ones that seemed to fit your taste, quickly going over the book and marking the ones that suited you the best, smiling as you handed it back over to Mitsuki. Your mother was a little shocked when you actually picked at least more than 2. Mitsuki looked over the woman you had picked, elegant women who were both smart and cunning, something that you would have to take mental note. You saw nothing in them, but you'll have to give it your best as to try not to be rude to your soon-to-be mother-in-law. Though you felt sorry for Myra. She had the work power of 5 people, always getting you ready around an hour and a half. Well, or less. Mitsuki had asked you more questions and more things about, court stuff and laws before the grand ball. But now, it was all over. You sighed, your hand rubbing your forehead as you sat more unladylike in the chair. Myra now sat down where Mitsuki was. I swear, you sighed, I really don't want to go to that grand ball anymore. You moaned, looking up. You then paused. We need to get you a dress. She froze, trembling just a bit. I know you don't like parties, but you're going to have to be with me. You smiled at her, and she only shrugged, looking down and then back towards you. Come on. You stood up and walked over to your closet, going through your clothes that had been previously put up, and then pulling out a dress she might like. It was a simple yellow one you knew she would like. Here, use it tonight, or keep it. I don't mind with what you do with it. It's yours now. You smiled, and you held it up to her. She paused for a moment, her hands unmoving, her lip trembling, as she stood there, looking it over, and quickly hugged you. You patted her shoulder as you held back your light tears. She then pulled away and smiled at you. She looked at the dress now in her hands, then looking back to you. You nodded, a sign as she was allowed to change into it. She quickly walked over and around a barrier and changed into the new dress. You looked over to where she was and waited. It might take her a little while since she wasn't used to wearing such fancy clothes, but why not spoil her just a bit? Until she had come out, brushing the dress down and then looking up to you. It looks nice on you. You smiled. Now come on, let me do your hair and makeup. She slowly walked over to your vanity, where you ushered her down onto your seat and brushed through her hair. She smiled as you hummed while brushing her hair. It from slowly being naturally curly to a light straight. The ends still being curly, but you couldn't help it. You tied up her hair and pinned it with pins, then placing tiny little pearls in her hair. She then looked to you, a knowing look telling you it was time. I know it's time for me to get ready. You lightly giggled, letting her stand and usher you to a stand, undressing you and then dressing you back up. Sometimes you felt like a doll when this happened, but it was her. She made it more enjoyable than having other people do it for you. Going back to your vanity and doing your hair and makeup. Unlike her, she curled your hair, placing flowers into it as she weaved it in like magic. You didn't even feel a ping of sensation as your hair was moved. Almost like your head had been numb, but you knew it wasn't. Her hands then came to a stop at your shoulders, and you looked to her. Am I all done? You knowingly smiled, her quiet giggling making you smile even bigger. All right then, let's get going. You took her hand in yours. Together? She nodded as the two of you walked together to the door. It had felt like you two were little girls again as you walked through the halls. Well, when you were little, you were running through them, but it still felt the same, giggling when you hid away from anyone and never got caught. For a bit, the two of you started to lightly run a bit. The more you got closer, giggling just as the two of you remembered in your younger days together, taking a halt when you were just around the corner to the grand ballroom. Myra quickly fixed you up and smiled, and the two of you calmly walked to the doors. The two guards looked at each other, nodding after a bit. Then they both went inside the room. The Crown Princess, Grand Princess Yin Lin. And the door slowly opened as you and Myra stood there, looking over the grand ballroom, and you slowly walked in. Myra's head held low, but you had to hold it up high to show that you were confident, that you wouldn't let these people push you around just because you were a foreigner, new to this land. Gasps and hums echoed throughout the room, and you took a seat next to Bakugou. His head rested on his hand and his knee bouncing, showing he was impatient. Myra stood behind your chair. Hours had seemed to go by, but in reality, it had to be only a minute or two. Your mother having a conversation with Mitsuki, your brother gone, probably flirting with court ladies. What do you think of this party? Bakugou had suddenly spoke. It was a calming matter, not one of the bark he used to speak. You paused, thinking. I find it useless. Why spend this much money on a party that really is just a show of power? There are many other ways that can do so without using this much money that could be used for the people. Bakugou hummed as he raised an eyebrow looking at you. And you? You asked. He took a moment to speak. I really don't care for it. It really just is for these entitled people to gossip about us, tell lies about us. He tissed. Well, we all have it hard. He hummed in confusion, looking at you with a raised eyebrow. See, The lower class has to work until the end of their lives, really, just to live. Middle class still works, yes. They have food on their plate by the end of the day, but some of them take dangerous jobs from higher classes just to make money. And then the higher classes, they have to focus on the future, what they'll fund, and if it's funded or not. For example, what if you fund the jewelry? What does that make for everything else? Yes, you'll get more grander jewelry, but it'll be cheaper. Other items will skyrocket up, like bread, a necessity. Dresses will also skyrocket as well. And then us. You then paused. We carve the future, where people have to stand together. We must make sure all of our people are happy, that they feel safe and acknowledged under our care, to know that they are people and not just animals. You looked to him. He was shocked, really. Only for a moment, though, then going back to his normal face. Yeah. I'm gonna go get a drink. He stood up and walked into the crowd. After a bit, you had slowly stood up, walking down the light stairs and into the crowd. Maria was quick to follow. Maria, do you think the same? You looked over at her, noting to the previous conversation you had with Bakugou. She thought for a moment, then nodded, lightly smiling. Why not a drink for the both of us? She nodded as the two of you ended towards someone and grabbing a glass, and maybe taking a bit too many sweets to eat. Until a maid came over. She bowed, so low that you couldn't even see her face. I'm sorry, but my lady wishes to speak with you. You raised an eyebrow. I'm sorry, but who would that be? You asked sternly. Lady Eden. You slowly looked to Myra. If you wish to speak with her, she will be out in the garden. She bowed and soon left into the crowd. You looked to Myra once more. Let's get this over with. You spoke as you slowly walked to the garden's doors and opened it. You paused, though, before leaving. Could you stay here? You asked. She took a moment, thinking of what she should do, before she slowly nodded. And you continued to open the door more and walked outside. Hearing as the doors clanked shut, finally the calm air filling your lungs as you stood there, watching the night sky. It was calming, not suffocating like the room that you had just once been in. It felt like freedom, really. Slowly walking to the garden's path, the garden was filled with all sorts of different colors and shapes. Hearing the rushing of water and the crickets chirping their melodies. Standing for a moment to pick a small flower and holding it in your hand. Sniffing it, the smell was nice, calming your tense muscles. Just feeling this air made you want to stay here forever. Run into the darkness and never look back. Hearing light footsteps, however, had broken you out of your little moment. When you went to turn, you were stopped when a knife came to your neck. Come on, just kill her. A cloaked male spoke as he showed himself in front of you. Do you want to hear her heartbeat as she gets more and more scared? He asked, and you could tell he was smirking by the way his voice spoke. You had to think of something. You had to get out of here. And you quickly took your dress into your hands and stopped on his foot. He grunted, dropping the blade as he bowled over. The other one looked at you before you turned and ran. You could hear his footsteps loud as he followed, hearing him pull something sharp out from behind himself. As he ran, you could hear him get closer and closer until his hand grabbed a hold of your arm, pulling you down onto the ground, the grass tickling your skin as you were slammed down, holding what now you could tell was a blade to your back. Damn, you're one hell of a bitch, he huffed as he held you down. Your breathing picked up just a bit. You know, the knife poked closer to your skin. I might just have some fun with you before I kill you, he chuckled, the knife cutting through your dress to your corset. You were hoping it didn't cut through your skin. Was this how you were going to die? Be raped and then stabbed in the throat? Was this worse than marrying an ass of a prince? No, this was definitely worse than marrying him. You thought as tears rolled down your cheeks and onto the floor. You were just hoping Myra would come to your rescue, like she always does.